Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Hudak. It's so disappointing to see 3 straight losses. If there's one glimmer of hope, it's that you're in a bad division. And if you can find a way to dig yourself out, there is there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But let's talk about how maybe they get there. And the most obvious one, Maddy, is going to be at quarterback. Jameis rested with the injured back, and we got to see Andy Dalton. So when you were looking at the tape, were there noticeable differences in how Pete Carmichael called the game for Andy as opposed to Jameis?
Just kind of, again, looked somewhat more like the system that they ran under Drew Brees. That's not necessarily to say one's better than the other, but it just kind of seems like that's the way this offense gets working. He gets the ball out quicker, and you didn't see those kind of same play designs of those really long developing plays until, again, kind of later in the game, but it wasn't so much having to play catch-up. It was more so just kind of shooting themselves in the foot and all of the penalty yards that they gave up more so than not actually being able to sustain drives. But that's kind of exactly what the difference is to me, and why I don't always understand the need to go for those kind of really long passes all the time, because clock control is an issue. And yeah, they went 3 and out on some of them, but they had almost a 7-minute drive at one point. I don't really think we've seen that at all this season. So just the ability to rest the defense, it just kind of, again, seems more complementary to what we've seen in years past.
Is that also why maybe we saw the higher completion percentage? Andy Dalton was 20 of 28. Was it more just short and intermediate routes?
I think so. It sticks out that a lot of the top players were out, and I think that that's still impressive that he was able to perform. But I also have to think about the fact that he throws to these receivers more often than not, playing with second teams. That being said, everyone knows what Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, and Michael Thomas can do. The reason Trevor Siemian looked good last year in games, him having chemistry with Adam Prentice is not really that great at the end of the day, and Kevin White. But getting guys like Marquez Callaway, who I think brings a level of contested catch more so than the other guys kind of have been able to consistently provide. He kind of almost plays like a defensive back. I think has saved a couple interceptions this season, but it just seems like he gets the ball out quicker. Again, maybe that's by design. I think, again, I would be remiss not to think that Jameis Winston's injury at this point is so obviously more glaringly clear to me. Just the amount of time he seemed to hold on to the ball and not look like himself, you could tell what a healthy quarterback could really do.
Maddy, I'm curious your answer to this. I have the one in my head, but I'm asking you, when you were going back and watching the film of the game again, was there a throw from Andy Dalton that you went, wow, I didn't know he had that in him?
I think it was the one to Olave that he was being hit while he threw, just because to me that really showed a lot. I'm trying to kind of remember the specific route, but it was a longer throw than kind of the dink and dunking that we've seen, but to have the interior pocket collapse, which is going to kind of keep happening, unfortunately, at times with this O-line, and to be able to really deliver that ball while at that point being hit, I thought that showed, a lot of poise that I think sometimes is lacking.
The one that I was going to reference was the throw he made. It was the 16-yarder to Juwan Johnson on the route on the right side, where he fit it in a pretty tight window, and Juwan Johnson made a really nice catch, kind of laying out toward the sideline. I mean, I don't know, Maddy, if that's a throw that Andy Dalton can consistently make, or if that's just like a one-off flash of what he was. But that's the kind of throw that I don't think I've seen so far in this offense until yesterday.
No, I would agree. Those tight window throws that are, kind of not those deep bombs that Winston's throwing. And again, it just continues to kind of stick out more and more to me. I think there's definitely questions to be answered about Winston when he's healthy at this point. I don't think you can blame everything on his injury, but you just think about how many throws have been so off target behind receivers 5 yards over their head. and it looks like Baker Mayfield kind of last year, and then you see these kind of balls actually have zip on them by Andy Dalton, and his release is just quicker to me. I almost said one of my favorite plays was the dump off to Adam Trotman, because quite honestly, those plays are what gets games done at the end of the day. And I do wonder sometimes if it's hard for Winston not to kind of go for the guy open deep downfield. That might be someone that's open, but sometimes the guy that's kind of in the middle of the field might be able to get you more short yardage. And I just feel like Andy Dalton, in a weird way, kind of like I don't think Winston is with his injury limitations. I think Andy Dalton is at a point in his career where he's aware of his own limitations and isn't going to try and do anything nuts, but can execute what he knows how to do. And, he's led a playoff team before, so I just think you can kind of expect that consistency. And to me, it was the best worst loss this season.
You mentioned the collapsing pocket, which we might see a lot this year. One thing that I thought was very encouraging that I wanted to ask you about was the run game, in particular with Latavius Murray. So what worked so well to get him going on Sunday?
He just seems like he has more juice at this point, I think, than Mark Ingram sometimes. And it's juice he was kind of lacking last year, to be fair. I think when you're kind of playing with late shelf life running backs, sometimes they just are happening to have a better year. But I always felt like Latavius Murray was just a little underrated, especially in the 2020 season. I'm pretty sure he was that Denver Broncos win, which I know we all joke about, but even though they didn't have a quarterback playing, they still had to do something on the offense. And I was a little upset to see him get cut last year just because his durability has always stood out to me as well in a way that I don't think that room can offer. But it was just burst back there, consistently getting 7 yards, not getting wrapped up for a loss. I just think that he has really good vision and just really powerful legs, and he seems to really kind of know this offensive line intricately. I know Mark Ingram has kind of come back, but Latavius Murray's been around for a while too, and it was surprising how quickly he rejailed back in.
Actually, Maddy, I'm not sure you're aware, but so we have a drop on the show every time we say the name Latavius Murray. We play that drop.
I've heard that before.
You did a really pro job of just like head down, barreling right through it a couple of times, because a lot of times when people get hit with the Murray present for the first time, it throws them off their game. Like, that was a pretty pro job, so good on you for that. All right, unfortunately, I have to ask this. So Maddie Hudak is with us. She's on Twitter at Maddie Hudak _94. How in the world did Justin Jefferson have that kind of day against Lattimore? And Maddie, it's not just that he was making catches. These weren't even like contested catches. The separation was almost unthinkable. So what happened with that matchup on Sunday?
I just think if you kind of go back and look at the plays that resulted in those kind of big yardage plays, you can just kind of see a lot of differences. He was never really in press coverage when those plays kind of happened. And I watched Justin Jefferson go up against Debo on the line of scrimmage on the other side as well, because he was frequently that motion player. His short area quickness off the line of scrimmage, at that point, it kind of seemed like it was unmatchable. So when you gave him that ability to kind of eat up that cushion and then make a cut one way or the other, it just kind of seemed like they caught the cornerbacks off guard every single time. And you rarely see Lattimore again, get kind of burned that many times. But I also feel like those big plays kind of stick out, whereas he had some other catches, but it seemed more like a game plan that went really well, more so than Jefferson beating Lattimore one-on-one every time. I went back and noticed every single time Justin Jefferson was targeted but one time, and then once in the red zone, they were either in cover 3 or cover 4. And the ones that worked well, the Saints were in cover 4, and it got to the point where you would see kind of Jefferson go in motion. He'd have to kind of either bring that cornerback down with him, and I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins, I don't know if it's their offensive coordinator, but it just seemed like they kind of saw that sweet spot of that soft area between the underneath zones, that when you're in cover 4, you have less guys underneath. And if you're drawing someone with him in motion, it just honestly seems like they out-game planned with Jefferson a lot of the time. And then, quite frankly, those crossing routes, that's a blueprint that's been exposed at this point, that the Buccaneers have really shown how to beat the Saints across the middle of the field. You saw Carolina do it. And, yeah, there was a play that they kind of tripped over each other, but that's how kind of those other completions by Jefferson worked out. So good game planning, but also kind of at this point a weakness in that secondary.
So is it one last thing? Is it something where you would anticipate, because you just alluded to it there, that this is the third opponent now that's taken advantage of those crossing routes over the middle. Is that something that you would anticipate future opponents would look at and try to scheme against, or is this something that the Saints will notice on film and fix, have a correction to fix?
You have to think the Saints will see this on film. I really am very confident in that defensive unit. Just, again, when you look at where those plays happened and how much time of possession had gone one way or the other, I think they're really just kind of doing all they can. But a lot of plays, you saw P.J. Williams, Justin Evans back at safety, and that's not the starting safety tandem. So I think really when Marcus May comes back into the fold, we don't see as much kind of cover 4 stuff. We haven't really seen any cover 2 lately, but I think getting him back as a personnel member, but other than that, I don't know even what you kind of see on film. It just kind of seems like they need to look at that Patriots Super Bowl NFL film where they figure out how to pick off the guy and just get something done at the line of scrimmage, because they're getting caught in traffic all the time.
It's desperation mode for the Saints this week. At 1-3, they cannot fall to 1-4 with what they have ahead on their schedule. So see if they can get right. She is Maddy Hudak. She's on Twitter at Maddy Hudak _94. She also is the the Tulane sideline reporter on the Tulane Radio Network and went super viral this weekend. Of course, Tulane wins on Friday night. Drama, and you just happen to be the person right there on the field who. All right, the Houston defender that rolled into you, did he wallop you or did he graze you?
So there's a lot, obviously, that happened in that very short period of time. I was celebrating. I had my microphone down, and then I realized, oh, my God, he's going to roll over the equipment. So I kind of went forward to save the microphone, and then his leg almost kind of like karate chopped me. So it actually wasn't that much of a hit as much as it was. He just kind of took my feet out from under me. So it didn't really hurt. I didn't actually even realize he hit me until people were sending me the video afterwards.
All right, we're going to show this for those who are watching who haven't seen it. You can find it anywhere, but I also would like to say that it was pretty graceful because while you did get knocked backwards, you didn't fall over. You got a hand down. You didn't do the full barrel roll. So that was actually a pretty athletic play not to get completely dump trucked.
I think it's the combination of adrenaline, my ability to be spastic and agile at the same time, and trying to save the equipment, honestly.
I kind of did you wrong, too, because I took a screen grab and tweeted it, and I definitely tweeted, the non-graceful part of you going backwards, where I probably could have gotten a much better shot, so my apologies for that.
It looks like I was breakdancing. It's all good.
It kind of did. All right, she's Maddy Hudak. We appreciate the time, Maddy. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.